Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle. Today our first guest is Heather Bell-Murphy, a health, life and love coach, and our topic is, does love paradise exist? Welcome Heather to the show, and please tell me, does love paradise exist or is it just a fantasy?
I think absolutely love paradise can exist, and I think it depends on, really importantly, of course there's several factors, but really importantly, creating a safe space for love communication, particularly when we come across love bumps. So things like, what I've really found when I've been coaching men, and I've come across this several times working with different male clients of different ages, where we may have all, I think a lot of women, we've had that experience where a man is angry and we can't work out why they're angry, and it's actually because they're experiencing what's really under it is vulnerability, and anger often caps feeling vulnerable for men, particularly in the past, you know, where a man may have been instilled with growing up, be a brave boy, put a brave face on it, stop crying. So what do men do then if they've had that kind of learning and that cap put on their emotional expression? They become angry. So this is a really super skill for women to embody, which is to, when a love bump arises, not take it personally. Listen. We don't have to respond, or we can respond in a, let me think about that, darling. You know, give me some time to think, give me some time to process it. Is this actually pertaining to us or to me? Or is that person just simply feeling vulnerable and being a bit, you know, volatile at that time? So the way you communicate, and I think this comes into my rules of engagement, so that love doesn't become a battleground, you know, where everybody ends up being injured and bloody. So knowing what your rules of engagement are, like even if I bring something to you and it may be a bit bumpy, I'm still going to try and say it gently, you know, and still try and be kind. Now, of course, if somebody has just hit their thumb with a hammer and they're going to explode, well, just let them explode. And of course, people tend to say uncomfortable things when they're in that heightened emotional state, when they're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, HALT, great acronym. So when that happens, you tend to just, you know, if your partner is Vesuvius, just let them blow. Let them blow off steam. In fact, when my partner has classically been a bottler, bless him, so I know that he's feeling particularly safe with me because he comes and he blows his stack to me. Now, I can choose my response because I'm grown up and I'm also responsible, you know, for my response. So if I'm ever a bit offhanded or I raise my voice, even though I feel that I may be right, I apologize because I've spoken out of turn. As we practice, and this is a skill like anything else, as we practice it, we tend to get better at it. And so, again, it's part of that skill set for Love Paradise, a long, sustainable, juicy, intimate love. And I can tell it works because he wants to bring me more and more things.
Could you please elaborate on what a love bump is for our viewers?
There's a big difference between love handles and love bumps. Both are great things. Both are great opportunities to grow. Love bumps arise as a natural consequence of, you know, two people coming up close and personal together for a long time. And what you'll actually find, like any challenge, just like the tide going out, it's actually negotiating the love bumps when they arise. Those bumpy times, you know, when we're vulnerable, when we're angry, when we might be going through a time of loss, you know, a time of grieving. And so we may not be showing up with our best selves in relationships. Now hopefully that's the time when one of us is going to step up and be there as the rock of support for the other person. And my partner and I joke about this, where it's like you're on that drive and you can't quite find out where you're going. And he hates that because that's part of his masculine thing, and he's an amazing driver, navigator of Melbourne. And so when we can't find somewhere, he will tend to get a bit tense. And I know that's my time to just zip it. If he wants my help, he'll ask for it. And I just sit back and I just enjoy the ride until he says, darling, can you get the Melways out? Or darling, can you Google map this? Or I think, can you check that the address that we have is correct? Now, we're both very clear about our love paradise destination because we both love being in it, and we want to make that as sustainable as possible. So, of course, we follow our rules of engagement, particularly when it comes to love bumps or when one of us is in a bit of a vulnerable situation.
Well, thank you for that. And do you have any tips for our viewers?
Yes, absolutely. Of course, loving starts with us. If we don't know how to be kind and generous and loving and supporting of ourselves, we're going to find that tricky in relationship. For women, it's necessary that we become the fountain of love and we self-nurture. And that means that in loving ourselves, in honouring ourselves, in respecting ourselves, we're not going to run into that problem of overgiving. And overgiving is a sure way to end up being taken for granted. And also, and this is a real kicker, it tends to kill his inspired masculinity, which is where he wants to keep giving to us, and having us receive those gifts. So that's a really, really big thing. And the other thing is, of course, heal, eat, love, pray to stay balanced in our daily life, every day in every way.
Thank you so much, Heather. If anyone wants more information on Heather Bell Murphy or our topic today, does love paradise exist? You can find her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Now please stay with us and we'll be right back after the break. After the break, animal communicator and therapist Carolyn Pope demystifies animal craniosacral therapy. Welcome back. Today we have Carolyn Pope in the studio. She is an animal communicator and therapist, and today we are going to be demystifying animal craniosacral therapy. Hello, Carolyn.
Hello, it's good to be back.
Yes. Now tell me, can you explain what animal craniosacral therapy is?
Pretty much the same as human craniosacral therapy. A lot of people will know it as CST for short. Derived from osteopathy. It's a very hands-on therapy, but literally the most pressure you're putting on is that of a 5-cent piece. So it's much more allowing the body what it needs to do rather than trying to force the body, because what a therapist thinks the body needs to do versus what the body knows it needs to do can kind of be a bit like the Montagues and the Capulets, really. So the most pressure I'm putting on is literally that of a 5-cent piece. And I often say to my clients, it's like watching paint dry, because they're just sitting and the dog or cat may close its eyes, it may lay down. You're not seeing much. But what's actually going on internally, there's a lot of recalibrating, and it's really, really big. If you ever have a CST yourself, you're going to feel a difference. And that's why I actually collaborate with a vet, because she will bounce information to me, or I will say to her, "You're not quite sure about X or Y, can you please check that out?" Because no one person can fix everything. And often if I'm feeling restrictions, say for example in the spine, everything runs off the spine. So the moment the animal's movement is compromised, so is its digestion, its elimination. Dog may well be having heart problems, for example. All the nerves for the heart innervate out of the parietal bone and go down through the thoracic. So if your dog's got problems in its thoracic area, or the parietal bone's jammed, that makes a huge difference to what the dog's heart is doing. And its medication may need to be adjusted. Everything interreacts with everything else. It's the one body. We're past the days of saying, oh, this is good for the heart. The fact that your liver's going to keel over in 6 months has got nothing to do with it. It's that integrative, holistic approach.
And how did you get into it and why?
Started with cranial for myself because I had thyroid problems at the time and really, really bad migraines. And CST actually got rid of them. I was literally being injected every second day with really heavy duty stuff, didn't need anything. Because I'm me, I pushed my therapist to work on a horse I had at the time, and I'd had him for, I think, 6 years by that stage. Great horse, but he'd always been tetchy to put a bridle on. Deb released his temporals, which are temporal bones, which are basically releasing around the ears. And from that day on, I never had another issue with a bridle. And of course, that got my very instant and undivided attention. Started exploring it, spoke to a few clients about it, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to afford it at the time. Had a phone call one day, picked it up, and it was one of the clients. They'd banded together and went, right, you're going to owe us X amount of CSTs. There's a course coming up. This is where it is. We've paid for it. Off you go. So I was incredibly lucky. And from the first day, I was just hooked.
And can you explain exactly what it is you do?
Animal will come in. I also use a bioenergetic handheld device because it speeds things up and it helps calm the animal, because no animal likes being on a table. I mean, obviously horses aren't going to go on a table. That's a little different. But most animals don't like heights in the same way I'm terrified of it. So it helps. And it's literally a hands-on therapy. I can start sometimes at the back end. Other times I'll start with one hand under the chest or the neck or the head. It really depends on the individual animal and also where they're comfortable, because a lot of animals, particularly dogs, can be quite head shy. Or if their neck's really sore, they're not going to want you putting hands on, and trust is earned. It's not given. And if a dog's got a really big problem, or any animal at one end, starting at the other builds up trust and releases the restrictions. So by the time you get to where the problem really is, they're not worried. And a lot of the time they'll literally lie down and just pass out, which is really nice.
And what sort of ailments do you treat?
Pretty much anything in the age bracket. Arthritis, stiffness, can help with a lot of dogs that start getting lack of proprioception and neurological as they get older. Vestibular disease in dogs and cats is a big one. Epilepsy, pretty much encephalitis, pretty much anything, because it improves health. It's no different to you. It's being proactive rather than reactive. And of course, the earlier you can get to something, you really need to be proactive. And long term, it's cheaper too to be proactive rather than reactive. I say to people, change of seasons, but you may well find that your dog or cat needs one session a week if they're acute, or it's been let go for a really long time, for 4 or 5 weeks, and you may get down to 1 trip a month. But if you stretch it out to 6 weeks, you might be back to where you are. And it's not fair to our animal friends to leave them in pain when we can make some lifestyle adjustments and change the quality of life so very, very much. Because at the end of the day, quantity is great, don't get me wrong. We all want our animals to live to an old age. But if there's no quality, it's all irrelevant. And this is where holistic health and, in my case, craniosacral therapy makes such a difference. It's about the quality of life. And the more we can do to improve that, the happier everyone is.
And can you please give us some advice on how to have a healthy and happy animal?
Be proactive. I generally say every change of season, as they start to age from about the age of 6, possibly 4 with the larger dogs, because of course there's all the rate of aging. But just stuff like all your moodle oodles and anything with hair under the pads, trim it back, because otherwise it's like you walking in socks instead of bare feet. They slide, they hurt themselves. Tiles, floating floor, timber laminate, polished floorboards, really bad for dogs and aged cats. I know they're a pain, but carpet runners are your best friend, and they can literally, in a lot of cases, be the difference between an animal being on painkillers and not, because every time they slide or scrabble, that's all we see, they experience a lot of pain. Just getting your flooring right, that's where your dog or cat spends 80 to 90% of their time. It makes a huge difference.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Carolyn. That was really interesting and very educational. For those interested in learning more about Carolyn Pope and animal craniosacral therapy, please head to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and hang around for after the break. We have another amazing guest.
Stay tuned. After the break, NDIS business consultant and empowerment coach Jacqui Grant will be talking about the 3 easy steps to weight release. Welcome back. Our next guest today is Jacqui Grant. She is an NDIS business consultant and empowerment coach. And the topic we'll be discussing today is the 3 easy steps to weight release. Welcome, Jacqui.
Thanks for having me.
What are the 3 easy steps to weight release?
Well, that's a really good question. And before we get into the actual 3 easy steps, let's talk about the word release. Like most people say, isn't it weight loss? Now, there's the psychology behind it. If you think for a moment, I've lost my car keys, what do you naturally do? You naturally look for them, right? You go to find them, you want them back. But when you release something, you let it go. Go, I'm done. I don't need it anymore. So when it comes to weight, and we're often wanting to lose weight, don't we want to release it and let it go, and we don't want it back? So I use that word release a lot, and I thought if I just make it a little clearer, it should help for the rest of the tips, which are that you have to be in the right mindset and feeling vulnerable to lose the weight. So the first step being that you want to identify you're ready for change, that you're ready to feel vulnerable in letting go and making change. The next one is looking at your current habits. So what are you currently doing that's not working and that is working? Understanding that is where you can create change from, because often what we do is we just go ahead and go, oh, I need to change my food, I need to do this, I need to do that. You actually don't need to do anything. It's all a choice, which comes to the power of wordplay like release. And the next thing is taking it one step at a time. So once you identify what isn't working, where you're ready to create change, you choose one space, one thing that you're ready to change. If you go ahead and start exercising, if you go ahead and change your food habits, the likelihood of sticking with all of those big changes all at once is minimal, and you are going to have bigger setbacks. Taking it one step at a time helps you to feel empowered, helps you to build that confidence.
What's your experience with weight release? And out of the 3 steps, what's been the most challenging?
Hesitating here a little bit because it sounds unbelievable. I have let go of 114 kilos. So I, at one stage, was 168 kilos and my health was really suffering. I did have a health scare, which I sat there and I said, look, if I survive this, I will do whatever it takes to release the weight. So I did go ahead and see a bariatric surgeon, so a weight loss surgeon, and we'd found that my body, my stomach really wasn't working as effectively as it could have been. So to release weight was possibly something that wasn't going to happen just with dietary and exercise change. So I went ahead and had that surgery, but the biggest challenge for me was that mindset. So smaller stomach meant smaller food portions, which a lot of people do implement with their weight release, but looking at the food and thinking, yes, I can eat a dinner plate. No, I can't. I can't eat all of that. And understanding that this was a lifetime journey. So the changes I was going to make after that surgery, well, I actually started to make them beforehand, was this is for the rest of my life. This is a choice. Now, if my mindset was like, no, I can't do it, then of course I wasn't going to have success. Or if I focused on the failures of the past, I wasn't going to have success. So I developed a can-do mindset. So the mindset came in where it's like we're taking it one day at a time. We're putting in strategies of celebrating even a half a kilo gone, or a new 2 centimeters gone. So using other tools to help the mindset stay positive and can do was things like, instead of using the number on the scale all the time, clothes. How do my clothes fit? And whenever I came against a challenge, such as not being able to do as much exercise as I want, or life got in the way and I didn't exercise all the time, I used a mindset of, you know what, this week I did exercise once. Okay, I didn't do it 5 times, but I did it once, and that's a win. But that took a lot of work, a lot of energy, and using tools such as a journal helped, supporting people in my life. So having people that actually supported me the way I required them to, not the way they thought they should. That was a bit of a challenge as well. And then there was also the fact that I went on and did other study, which really helped me to stay on track. And being ADHD, I could use those skills as well of hyperfocus. Like, I'm doing this and I've got this energy. But mindset is so hard because we play records of the past. So it does take a big lot of energy and shift to move forward from that. But it is possible. You can do it.
What's some advice you could offer our viewers?
Well, the first thing is to really watch the words that you use around your choice of when it comes to weight release. I use that a lot because it's actually empowering. And the other thing that I would get you to think about is, why is it that you want to release the weight? Like, is it because you've got a medical condition and your doctor says you have to? I mean, valid point and good advice, so please follow it. But are you wanting to do it because you've got an ideal image in mind of, oh, I want to be an amazing size 10 and have this amazing body? Not saying it's not possible, but the reason and the motivation behind why it is you're choosing, so once again, that's a choice, not a need, is so important. Because if you sit back and do this for someone else, if you choose to change your food habits, change your exercise habits, and you're doing it for someone else, it won't work long term. So really come from heart space, check in with yourself as to what's important for you and why you really want this. And then get the right people around you, such as a coach that's going to empower you. But each person's individual needs should be met for them, because one diet doesn't fit all, one exercise program doesn't fit all, and it's really important that you get your mindset right. So working with a coach that will empower you and listen to you, same as getting the right personal trainer. It's important to have the right support, the right motivation, and do it for the right reasons.
That's such empowering information, Jacqui. If you'd like to know more about the 3 easy steps to weight release and Jacqui Grant, please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And that's all for us today. We'll say bye-bye until next week. If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.